Connor Kenway. The very name of this one particular assassin brings up so much conversation amongst the fans of Assassin's Creed, and it's gotten to a point where he's not even polarizing anymore. Because by this time I've seen numerous polls, Reddit threads, and a lot of people stirring up the conversation about Connor Kenway, whether he's underrated, underdeveloped, or just misunderstood. And from what I've seen, majority of the fans of the franchise agree that Connor Kenway was misunderstood. Was he really? But well, my argument is his character development wasn't as good as it should have been. But am I right or am I wrong? I might have been remiss in ranking him really low in my rankings of Assassin's Creed protagonists, but you can rest assured that if I've made a mistake, I'll definitely own up to it. Which is exactly the point of making this video in the first place. I really wanted to delve deep into the character and understand everything about him so that I can come to a proper conclusion as to what this character really is. Is he good, bad, or otherwise? For all of us to accurately realize the truth about Connor, we really have to dissect every single layer of the construct of Connor Kenway. So let's go to the very beginning, the base of the character. As far as the very basement of any character is concerned, Connor Kenway probably has one of the best in the entire Assassin's Creed series. Think about this, the grandson of one of the most dangerous assassins/pirates that's ever lived, and the son of a Templar Grandmaster. Connor's base was concrete. No one can deny that. He had every bit of potential in his background story to make sure it's solid. And add to that the amazing personality of Edward and the extreme charisma of Haytham. And if any of the fans seeing this video have already played Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, and you put these statistics, this background story on paper, you will already be sold to the fact that Connor Kenway is gonna be one of the most amazing protagonists this franchise has ever seen. We all have to understand that in Assassin's Creed, the character's lineage is everything. This whole series is based upon DNAs. And the DNA of a man is literally his basement. So as far as basements go, Connor Kenway has probably the best in the entire series. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the character development. How much did Connor really mature during the events of Assassin's Creed 3? From the very first time we see him playing as a boy near his settlement, Kanian Kahaka, to the man that we see stabbing Charles Lee in his solar plexus. How much did he really develop? That's a big and one of the most important questions if you ask me, because this is exactly where I thought the creators faltered and did not develop the character as much as they could have. But before drawing any conclusions, let's go ahead and analyze this. A simple innocent boy in the woods. This is exactly what Connor was at the very beginning. Nothing more, nothing less. But you can already see shades of excellence and brilliance in the boy. Not only is he interested in the happenings of outside world, he's also extremely skilled and has the eagle sense that's most definitely a gift for him from his ancestors. And probably the most important scenes that the creators have put in, the way Connor defiantly spits at Charles Lee's face and tells him he's gonna find him. The iron grit of the boy is already established here, and it's clearly put across that his willpower is nothing to be questioned. I've seen some people really be irritated by the fact that they have to wait a long time to play as the fully grown man, the assassin Connor Kenway. But you really have to understand that this is exactly where the creators really blew life into the character of Connor Kenway. The first 2 to 3 hours of Assassin's Creed 3 are actually pure gold. There's no rush, there's no hurry. The developers have made sure that they take their own sweet time in telling the story of not only Connor but his lineage through Haytham Kenway. Because once we play as Haytham, we really come to the understanding that his son Connor is probably going to be one of the most dangerous people to have ever donned the robes of the assassins. So I really didn't mind playing as Haytham for such a long time, or as playing as Connor the boy, aka Radunagedun, for the first few hours. And then comes the shocking twist. Connor Kenway's mother is killed. Easily one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. The way Connor desperately tries to save his mother and then reaches out for her hand and shouts for her. My goodness, it really touched my heart. It really moved me. But this instance again gave us a glimpse into the character that is Connor Kenway. He already had the bravery, the courage, and also the fire that would be needed for a person to become an assassin. He had everything set. Slow and methodically told stories like these really have a huge impact on people, and people usually want to rush to the good part. But the problem is, if everything isn't laid out the way it should be, the good part really wouldn't feel that good now, would it? And then the game instantly skips 9 years in the timeline. Radunagedun is a grown boy, almost a man. And even at this point, the simple missions that we go through not only tell us how to hunt, and how to perform parkour on trees. It also gives us a deeper understanding of the character of Connor Kenway. The way he's so supportive and caring for his friend Khan and Tokon, this scene really lays out his character traits even further. We start understanding that not only is Connor Kenway really caring and warm, but also a capable young man.
And the very next part after the hunting missions,
Connor's interaction with Juno, who then sends him towards Achilles. Everything that happens to Connor when he's trying to seek out the help of Achilles really puts across one thing very clearly. Connor is naive and innocent, but yet focused and furious. This man can kill you if he wants to. And despite not having any formal training, Connor is already a force to be reckoned with. And once Achilles accepts Connor as his protege, the real story begins. The training of Connor Kenway. This portion too has been laid out rather well. The way Achilles restores some semblance of the old assassin brotherhood, gets his ship back on the sea, teaches Connor everything he needs to know, and when the time's right, Achilles takes him to Boston. And well, how's it even possible that the assassins are somewhere and there's no trouble brewing up? And that's exactly what happens in Boston. But here too, once Connor tries to eliminate the shooter but fails miserably once he realizes Charles Lee's the real shooter, Connor tries to run away. Enter Sam Adams, who later on becomes one of Connor's most trustworthy advisors. One more layer and dimension of Connor is shown to us here. Despite being really innocent and naive, this man is not blindly trusting. He has the understanding of the world better than you would think he would. But well, he's Haytham's son, so what else would you expect? And here ends the story of the boy, Connor Kenway, and begins the story of the man, the assassin Connor Kenway. His journey properly starts hours and hours after the game begins. Probably 4 to 5 hours of solid gameplay is required for you to get to this point and understand every fundamental aspect of this character. And well, this is where I stop describing his story in great detail and start telling you exactly when and where they went wrong. The problem is the creators have already told us exactly what Connor's characteristics are. He's a kind-hearted, right-minded young man. But for some reason, after he becomes an actual assassin, his character really goes haywire. He's suddenly arrogant, misunderstanding, and needlessly intimidating his own allies. This is really not something that the young Connor would do ever, like ever. And not just that, he also turns a blind ear to every single one of his good advisors and always does what he should not. See what I mean? Confusing traits about a character that's been laid out perfectly in the very beginning. They really didn't have to alter his characteristics at all. What they showed us before about Connor was more than enough to make one of the most amazing protagonists ever written. They really didn't have to deviate from the very basic, and not this much. See, it's understandable if he slowly and steadily evolves into a brooding, serious young man, but no, it happens all of a sudden.
It's like as soon as he's an assassin, he's an asshole.
That makes no sense to me. And there's one more major mistake that's been made by the developers. Everything good about Connor has been put into the homestead missions. Why in the world would they do this? I would say maybe 60 to 70% of the people who play these games really just go through the main storyline and really don't bother about the side missions that much. It's a fact, there's no denying it. There are very few people who go through the game in great detail, really try to break down every aspect of it and try to experience the game as much as they can. Because there's also the fact that not every game has extremely high quality side missions. Assassin's Creed 3 side quests are really good. They're definitely not at the Witcher 3 level, but still when you compare them to other Assassin's Creed games, this game's side quests are really good. They have a lot of detail and a lot of character development for Connor that is missing in the main story. Do you see the glaring issue here? Imagine you watch a James Bond movie and everything good about Bond is in a book that releases afterwards. Well, if that happens, what's the point of watching the movie in the first place? And this is exactly what happened. The Connor that we see in the very beginning is the Connor that we see during the homestead missions. And I've seen many people say that he really had to be a tough, brooding man for the assassin lifestyle, but no, he really didn't. His own true self was more than enough to not only be one of the most dangerous but one of the more likable assassins in the entire series. He really didn't have to be that brooding, because really think about it, if he's unnecessarily tough on the outside when he's a softie at heart, that just means he's pretending. And trust me, nobody, and I repeat, nobody likes a pretentious person, fictional, real or otherwise. So what exactly were the creators trying to tell us. One minute he's the nicest man, building churches, helping people set up their lives, walking Miriam to her wedding altar, and in the very next part in the main storyline, he's brooding and necessarily intimidating people, being a dick towards people who are fighting for the same cause as he is. And this is exactly where I think the creators faltered majorly with Connor Kenway. Now that I've described in great detail exactly what I thought about Connor Kenway's character development, let's go towards the end of the character. As far as the last sequence in Assassin's Creed 3 is concerned, I think it's really one of the better ones. There's a sense of finality, a sense of a proper end that every protagonist deserves. The way Connor finds at least some form of emotional closure with his father at the very end, when Haytham tells Connor that he's kind of proud of him in a way. See, Connor really never had a father figure his entire life. The only person that came the closest was probably Achilles. And it's very, very clear by his actions that Connor really wanted to save Haytham. He really didn't want to kill him. But then again, what would you expect? Anybody would try to save his own father, and Connor did just that. Connor even kind of admits it to Achilles that he wants to save Haytham. He has a soft corner in his heart for his father, and rightfully so if you ask me. And towards the tail end of Connor's story, the way he sits down with Charles Lee, has the drink and then stabs him in his chest and walks away, that was a fitting ending. Connor finally killed the man that not only burnt his village to the ground but also killed his mother. And that kind of brought things full circle. So the end that Connor received was actually pretty good. And now let's talk about the aftermath of his story. After the events of Assassin's Creed 3 transpired, Connor Kenway fell in love with a woman from another tribe, married her and had 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. So the nice thing is he really had a good life post the events of Assassin's Creed 3. There's really not much to discuss what happened after he killed Charles Lee. That's pretty much the end of his time as a premier assassin. He really kind of took a backseat after that, and rightfully so. He'd already played his part and had nothing much left to do. So that's the aftermath of his story, kind of an epilogue. And now let's talk about the character design. I think that Connor's character design is one of the absolute best in the Assassin's Creed series. And despite there being some of the most breathtaking character designs in Assassin's Creed, like Cassandra and Bayek, Connor really holds his own. A 6'2", nearly 200-pound brute who's as nimble as a featherweight on the trees and has the power and the brute strength of an absolute super heavyweight. Connor is really the perfect nexus physically. Not only is his physique intimidating, he looks even more scary once he kills Haytham and shaves the sides of his head and has war paint on his face. This man looks like he won't stop haunting you even after you're dead. It's actually the most apt description of him. So the design team have done an amazing job with Connor. Now let's go over to the voice acting part, because this is one of the aspects that really turned players away from the character. The monotonous stern dialogue delivery of Connor is really something that a lot of players have complained about, but I would not be one of them because I understand that this is exactly what was needed for the character that is Connor in Assassin's Creed 3. He's not a person from the city, he's a boy from the woods, the tribal settlements, and this is probably exactly how he would be talking. Methodical and monotonous, because clearly English was something that Zio taught him, and it's not something that he learned at school or by talking to other people around him, which means he'll always be more comfortable in his native language, and English would always be a second choice and not the primary one. And Noah Watts has done a really good job of giving us a convincing performance as Connor Kenway. I have no qualms about this aspect whatsoever. And now that we've spoken about every aspect of Connor Kenway, let's rate each aspect separately out of 10. Well, the basic of the character, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. He had, as I said, one of the best basements ever upon which a character could be built. 9 out of 10, no doubts about it. The character development, well, this was a really weak, confusing and kind of a misguided aspect. And even though it was the developer's fault, when we are rating Connor, he would receive maybe a 5 out of 10, nothing more than that. Anything more than that would be unjust. The end was really solid to Connor Kenway's story. The kinds you would really want to make sure you feel complete. Almost everyone wants to see the story come full circle, and it did so here perfectly. I'd rate the end a solid 8.5 out of 10. Next, the aftermath. Well, the aftermath really didn't have much to it. There was no grand build the way Ezio got, and there's no clear mention about it either. If anything, there are just some obscure stories about Connor, and that's about it. There's no solid epilogue here, which is why I would rate this 3 out of 10. It's very unfortunate that we couldn't even find out what happened to such a beloved character after the events of Assassin's Creed 3. Next, the character design, my goodness, one of the absolute best. If you want intimidating, Connor Kenway is your man, and for that I'd give him a solid 8.5 out of 10. Well, why not anymore? They really changed his character design a lot from his youth to his adulthood. I don't think a man can change that much in that short of a period. So because of that inconsistency, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. Next, the voice acting. As I said before, this was actually picture perfect. The stern voice of Noah Watts, well, it was absolutely perfect for Connor. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. Why not any more? Well, there definitely could have been a little more fluctuation in his tone. That would have made Connor just a little bit more interesting. So there was definitely room for improvement. The voice itself is perfect, but the execution, well, that only gets 8 out of 10. So overall, I'd give the character a solid 7 out of 10. Nothing to be ashamed of. There are some really heavy hitters here, and still Connor managed to get a solid 7 out of 10. So you might ask what the final verdict of the video is. Well, Connor is just underdeveloped. That's what I've come to realize when I went through this entire video. Not only is his character development completely botched, this amazing and beloved character did not get a perfect end. The hero's final arc, he definitely deserved it. Do not tell me otherwise, because if you've played Assassin's Creed 3, you would know that how big of a role Connor played in the American Revolution, and that kind of a massive contribution towards the freedom of America. And this guy doesn't even get a proper ending? What the bloody hell? Well, never mind that. This is exactly where I think Ubisoft goes wrong. They really are not bothered about giving them endings, epilogues, after stories, none of those things. They are literally making less than the bare minimum effort that they should make once these characters have run their course. They really push them aside to a point of obscurity, and that is the main problem, the biggest dark cloud that's really been hovering over the Assassin's Creed series. But in the end, I would like to say one thing, that just because I think he's underdeveloped does not mean he's a bad character at all. In fact, he's one of my favorite protagonists in the entire series. You know, there's a certain innocent country boy charm that Connor possesses, and this character could have been so much better had Ubisoft made an effort to write him in a better way. Well, that was my opinion on Connor Kenway, guys. And with that, we reach the end of the video. Do not forget to tell me down in the comment section below exactly what you thought of Connor Kenway. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you liked the video, hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. A lot more gaming content is on its way, which is exactly why you'd want to turn on notifications. That way you'll be notified every time a new video is uploaded to the channel. It's your boy VZX signing out.